The ground shook beneath Lieutenant Kara Mason's boots as the first barrage hit Outpost Gamma. Dirt and debris rained from above, the prefab walls groaning under the strain of the Dralic assault. Kara crouched low, pressing her comms button. Status report. Where's Bravo team? Static crackled in her ear, followed by Sergeant Calder's strained voice. Pinned down, northeast perimeter. Plasma fires tearing us apart. Kara glanced over the small, makeshift command room. Monitors flickered, displaying red blips closing in on their position. The Dralic weren't just attacking, they were overwhelming. They're not giving us time to regroup, said Corporal Singh, who was feverishly reloading a rifle. They think we're already dead. Then let's remind them we're not, Kara replied, her voice sharper than she felt. She grabbed her rifle and slung it over her shoulder. Corporal, you're with me. Let's get Bravo some cover. The outpost was a scatter of hastily erected shelters and trenches, every inch of it bathed in a harsh red glow from the Dralic plasma bombardment. Kara sprinted through the chaos, her boots kicking up clouds of ash and dust. Around her, soldiers scrambled to return fire, their bullets ricocheting harmlessly off shimmering alien energy shields. They're pushing from the ridge, a voice shouted. Kara turned in time to see the towering silhouette of a Dralic mech crest the hill. It stood over 15 feet tall, its metallic joints glinting under the dim sunlight of Caldra V. The mech's arm-mounted cannon lit up, sending another blast straight into the heart of the outpost. Kara ducked behind a sandbag wall, pulling Singh down with her. We're going to need heavier firepower, she muttered. You mean heavier than what we don't have? Singh snapped, wincing as a spray of dirt hit his face. Kara's eyes darted to a nearby storage crate half buried in rubble. Painted on its side was a faded warning, caution, heavy ordnance. Cover me, she ordered. Singh fired blindly over the barricade as Kara made her move. She slid behind the crate, prying it open with the butt of her rifle. Inside was an ancient M2 Browning machine gun, its parts gleaming like relics of a bygone era. Singh glanced back, incredulous. That thing's older than my grandfather. And just as reliable, Kara shot back. Help me set it up. Together, they hauled the weapon onto a makeshift tripod. Kara fed the belt of .50 caliber rounds into the chamber while Singh adjusted the angle. The mech was now stomping through the outpost, crushing defenses under its massive feet. Keep it steady, Kara said, gripping the weapon's handles. Singh laughed nervously. Steady? I can barely believe we're doing this. The mech turned toward them, its glowing red eye locking on. Kara opened fire. The roar of the M2 was deafening, each shot a thunderous declaration of defiance. The bullets tore through the air, striking the mech's joints where its shield flickered weakest. Sparks flew as the machine staggered, its left leg buckling under the onslaught. That's it! Singh shouted. You're hitting something! The mech retaliated, its cannon unleashing a blast that sent the sandbag wall flying. Kara and Singh were thrown backward, landing hard against the ground. Pain lanced through Kara's ribs, but she forced herself up. The mech limped toward them, its remaining leg dragging across the ground. Kara gritted her teeth and grabbed a loose belt of ammo. We finish this now! Singh crawled back to the gun, stabilizing it as Kara reloaded. The mech raised its arm, preparing for one final strike, but Kara was faster. She fired a relentless stream of bullets into the damaged joint, the metal groaning under the pressure. With a deafening crack, the mech collapsed. Its hulking frame toppled forward, slamming into the dirt with an impact that shook the battlefield. A brief silence followed, broken only by the crackle of flames and the distant hum of retreating Dralic forces. From her comms, Calder's voice came through, shaky but alive. Lieutenant, did you just take down a mech with that relic? Kara let out a breathless laugh. Damn right we did. How's Bravo holding up? Barely, but we're breathing, Calder replied. Thanks to you? Kara glanced around the outpost. Bodies of fallen comrades lay strewn across the battlefield, the scent of burnt metal and flesh heavy in the air. Her squad was battered, bruised, but alive. She stood brushing dirt from her uniform. Singh, round up the survivors. We're not done yet. Singh gave a weary salute. Yes, ma'am. Kara turned her gaze to the horizon, where more Dralek ships hovered ominously. Her grip tightened around her rifle. They'd called humanity primitive, dismissing their weapons as outdated relics. But humanity wasn't about technology. It was about grit, determination, and the refusal to give up, even when the odds were impossible. The Dralek were about to learn that lesson the hard way. The smoldering wreckage of the Dralek mech cast long shadows over the outpost as the surviving soldiers regrouped. Kara Mason stood at the center of it all, barking orders as her adrenaline simmered into a sharp focus. Around her, the wounded were dragged to makeshift medical tents, and weapons were scavenged from the dead. Lieutenant, Corporal Singh called out, jogging up to her with a handheld scanner. We've intercepted Dralek comms. They're regrouping. More mechs inbound. Kara didn't flinch. How much time do we have? Maybe an hour, Singh said grimly. They're consolidating on the ridge before the next push. She turned to the handful of soldiers left standing, just 18 of the original 50. Exhaustion lined their faces, but their eyes still burned with defiance. Listen up! Kara shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. We held them off once. We'll do it again. But we can't rely on brute force. They're bigger, stronger, and better equipped. So we fight smart. We fight dirty. And we fight to win. A murmur of approval rippled through the group, though doubt still lingered on a few faces. What's the plan, Lieutenant? Calder asked, his left arm in a makeshift sling. Kara crouched by a battered holomap projector, pressing buttons until the terrain of Caldra V's ridge flickered to life. The Dralek rely on precision and structure. That's their strength, but it's also their weakness. We're going to hit them where they least expect it. She traced a line along the ridge. This gully here? It's perfect for an ambush. Singh, I want traps, explosives, spike pits, anything you can rig up. Calder, you'll lead a decoy squad to lure them in. Once they're in the kill zone, we'll hit them hard. And if they don't fall for it? Singh asked. They will, Kara said with quiet conviction. Their arrogance won't let them think we're capable of a counterattack. That's how we win. The next hour was a flurry of frantic preparation. Kara and Singh worked side by side, assembling makeshift explosives from scavenged power cells and discarded ordnance. The soldiers dug trenches, buried mines, and positioned themselves along the ridge, hidden beneath camouflage netting. Kara inspected every detail personally, ensuring the traps were perfectly concealed. She paused by one of the pits, where Singh was tying sharp metal shards to a rope grid. You ever think this is what they meant by adapt and overcome back in training? Singh asked with a wry grin. Not exactly, Kara replied, her tone light despite the weight of the situation. But I doubt the instructors accounted for 15-foot-tall mech Sether. Singh chuckled, but the sound quickly faded as they both looked toward the horizon. The distant hum of Dralek engines was growing louder. By the time the enemy arrived, the human soldiers were ready. Kara crouched behind a rocky outcrop, binoculars in hand. From her vantage point, she saw the Dralek forces descending the ridge in a precise, orderly formation. They're coming, she whispered into her comms. The Dralek mechs moved like predators, their glowing eyes scanning for threats. Infantry units followed closely, their energy rifles glinting under Caldra V's pale sun. To anyone watching, the humans' traps were invisible, buried beneath layers of dirt and ash. Decoy team, go! Kara ordered. On the far side of the ridge, Calder's squad fired a series of carefully timed shots, drawing the Dralek's attention. The aliens responded immediately, redirecting their forces toward the perceived threat. Kara watched the mech step into the gully. She held her breath as the first one crossed a buried tripwire. A deafening explosion ripped through the air, sending shrapnel and debris flying. The mech stumbled, its armor dented and smoking. Before it could recover, Kara gave the signal. Now! The ambush sprung to life. Soldiers opened fire from their hidden positions, their bullets targeting weak points in the mech's armor. Explosive traps detonated one after another, turning the gully into a fiery death trap. Kara joined the fray, her rifle barking as she took down a Dralic infantry unit attempting to flank their position. "Keep them contained!" she shouted. "Don't let them regroup!" Singh was manning a mounted grenade launcher, his face set in grim determination. "Come on, you overgrown tin cans!" he yelled, launching a round directly into a mech's chest. It exploded in a shower of sparks, collapsing in on itself. Despite their initial success, the Dralic weren't easy prey. One of the mechs broke free from the ambush, its shield shimmering as it advanced toward Kara's position. "Lieutenant!" Singh called out, but Kara was already moving. She sprinted across the battlefield, weaving between craters and debris. Her hand found the detonator she'd rigged earlier, a single charge hidden beneath a rock slide. The mech's cannon swiveled toward her, its glow intensifying. Kara dove behind a boulder, slamming her hand on the detonator. The explosion was thunderous. Tons of rock tumbled down, burying the mech in an avalanche. Kara peeked out from her cover, breathing heavily. "Nice shot, ma'am," Singh said over the comms. "Thanks," Kara replied, wiping sweat from her brow. "Now focus fire on the last one." By the time the dust settled, the gully was littered with the remains of Dralic mechs and infantry. The ambush had worked, but the cost was high. Kara walked among the wreckage, her boots crunching over shattered metal and scorched earth. Soldiers emerged from their hiding spots, their expressions a mix of relief and exhaustion. "We did it," Singh said, collapsing onto a rock. "We actually did it." Kara didn't share his smile. Her eyes were fixed on the horizon, where more Dralic ships loomed like ominous storm clouds. "This was just a skirmish," she said quietly. "They'll come back. Stronger." Singh frowned. "Then what's next?" Kara looked down at the battlefield, the remnants of human ingenuity scattered amidst alien technology. Her jaw tightened. "We keep fighting," she said. "Because if we don't, no one else will." The air was thick with the smell of burnt metal and scorched earth. Outpost Gamma was quiet, too quiet. Kara Mason stood in the middle of what remained of their command area, her eyes scanning the horizon. The Dralic ships still loomed like silent sentinels above Caldra V, casting long shadows over the battered landscape. "How long do you think we have?" Singh asked, his voice low. He was crouched by a dismantled rifle, trying to cobble together something that might survive another fight. "Not long," Kara said, arms crossed. "They're regrouping, waiting for reinforcements. They won't make the same mistake twice." A tense silence stretched between them before Sergeant Calder limped over, holding a tablet with intercepted Dralic communications. "Lieutenant, you're not going to like this." Kara snatched the tablet and scanned the data. Her jaw clenched. "A supply convoy," she muttered. "They're bringing reinforcements and equipment to their forward base. 3 mechs, a dozen infantry units, and a transport loaded with munitions," Calder added. "It's moving through the canyon in 2 hours." Kara's mind raced. The canyon was narrow and difficult to navigate. If they could sabotage the convoy, they could cripple the Dralic's ability to launch another assault. "We hit them there," she decided. Calder looked dubious. "Lieutenant, we've got 18 people left, half of them injured. They've got 3 mechs and an air escort." Kara met his gaze, her tone firm. "We don't have a choice. If that convoy reaches their base, they'll wipe us out by morning." An hour later, the soldiers were on the move. They carried what little equipment they could salvage: rifles, a few grenades, and the patched-together M2 Browning Kara had grown to trust. The journey to the canyon was grueling, the jagged terrain and choking dust slowing their progress. Singh jogged beside Kara, his breathing labored. "We've fought off 2 waves, barely held the outpost, and now we're taking the fight to them? You ever think we're pushing our luck?" "All the time," Kara admitted, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "But luck's just another resource. Use it wisely, and you can stretch it further than you think." Singh huffed a laugh, though his expression remained tense. When they reached the canyon, Kara took a moment to survey the area. The narrow path wound between towering rock walls, its natural choke points offering the perfect opportunity for an ambush. "All right," she said, addressing the group. "Calder, you'll take a team to block their escape route with explosives. Singh, your squad will cover the high ground. The rest of you are with me. We'll hit them head-on once they're trapped. Any questions?" "Just one," Calder said, raising an eyebrow. "What happens if this doesn't work?" Kara's expression hardened. "Then we make sure it costs them everything to take us down." The convoy arrived right on schedule. The ground vibrated with the heavy steps of mechs, their glowing eyes scanning the canyon for threats. Behind them rolled a massive transport vehicle, its engine growling like a hungry beast. Kara crouched behind a rock formation, her team silent around her. Her heart pounded in her ears as she whispered into her comms. "Hold positions. Wait for my signal." The convoy advanced, the lead mech stepping into the kill zone. Kara raised her hand, counting down with her fingers. 3, 2, 1. Now! The first explosion rocked the canyon, a wall of flame and debris collapsing behind the convoy and cutting off their retreat. The Dralok forces reacted instantly, their shields flaring to life as they formed a defensive perimeter. Kara's team opened fire from the shadows. Bullets and grenades rained down on the convoy, targeting weak points in the mech's armor. From above, Singh's squad fired precise shots, taking out Dralok infantry attempting to regroup. One mech turned toward Kara's position, its arm-mounted cannon charging. She dove for cover as the blast obliterated the rock she'd been hiding behind. "Focus fire on that mech!" she shouted. The M2 Browning roared to life, its heavy rounds punching through the mech's damaged shield. Sparks flew as its armor buckled, and with a final, sputtering groan, it collapsed in a heap of smoking metal. "Two down!" Singh reported from above. The second mech retaliated, firing its plasma cannon at Singh's position. The explosion sent debris flying, and Kara's heart sank as she lost sight of the corporal. "Singh, report!" she barked into her comms. I'm fine." His voice came back, strained but alive. "Lost the gun, though. Down to sidearms." "Stay put," Kara ordered. "We'll handle it." The transport's engines roared as it attempted to push through the blockade. Kara saw her opportunity. "Calder, now!" Another explosion rocked the canyon as Calder's team detonated charges beneath the transport. The vehicle swerved violently before tipping onto its side, its cargo spilling out in a fiery wreck. The final mech turned its attention to Kara, its cannon whirring to life. She grabbed a grenade from her belt and sprinted forward, weaving through the chaos. "Kara, what the hell are you doing?" Singh's voice shouted over the comms. The mech fired, narrowly missing her as she dove beneath its massive frame. She pulled the pin on the grenade and jammed it into the mech's exposed joint. "Primitive this," she muttered, rolling away just as the grenade detonated. The mech shuddered, its legs giving out as it collapsed in a heap. Kara lay on the ground, coughing from the dust and smoke, but a smile broke through her exhaustion. "Lieutenant, you good?" Calder's voice crackled in her ear. "Still breathing," she replied, pushing herself to her feet. "Status?" "The convoy's toast," Calder said. "No survivors on their end." Kara looked around at her battered squad. They were alive, bloodied, bruised, but alive. She keyed her comms to the squad's channel. "Good work, everyone. Let's get back to the outposts before they send another wave." As they regrouped, Singh limped over to her, his face smudged with dirt. "You've got a death wish, Lieutenant." Kara smirked. "Death hasn't caught me yet." They walked together toward the horizon, the wreckage of the convoy burning behind them. For now they'd won. Tomorrow would bring new battles, but humanity had proven its strength. Primitive or not, they weren't going anywhere.